everybody, and welcome once again to IGN's News, Games, and More. This is our weekdaily show where we discuss all of those things: the news, the games, the news about the games, and more. There's a bunch of cool stuff to talk about. I'm Max Scoville, and I'm joined today by some of my good pals, Matt Kim,
Hello.
Janet Garcia,
What's good?
and Sydney Goodman.
Hey.
Now, there's some big stuff to talk about. The huge big thing is that first thing this morning, we got the big, huge reveal of Unreal Engine 5 running on PS5 hardware. There's also some leaks / reveals / announcements about the Mafia trilogy getting remastered. But before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. We are sponsored this week by PUBG Mobile. They've actually sponsored us all week. And Season 13 is arriving today. They've got a ton of updates they've just dropped, and you'll want to get trained up and ready to brawl with these brand new additions, including the new Cheer Park social area, which sounds like exactly what we all need right now. This has a lot of the basic training ground features, but up to 20 players can interact with each other in real time using emotes and adding friends, and you can team up and just kind of hang out, play matches in various modes. You can do 1v1 duels, hunting games, and a shooting range, and you can compete against your friends with stuff like that, and share stats in the chat. After the show, we have Powerbang, who was on the show this week, and he's going to be live streaming PUBG Mobile, and that is happening from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. Showing off a bunch of the new updates to the classic Miramar map, including the newly added canted sight, which will be compatible with most assault rifles, submachine guns, sniper rifles, light machine guns, and more. Also, there will probably be some surprises in addition to everything I just fired off right there. So without further ado, let's talk about Unreal 5. This is bonkers.
Yeah.
Matt, you want to kick us off? You did a bunch of the deep dive info on this. This is a brand new tech demo running on PS5 hardware that Epic dropped to kind of show off what the Unreal Engine 5 looks like in action. And you had a chance to speak to some people from Epic. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I got a chance to speak with Tim Sweeney, the founder and CEO of Epic Games, along with Kim Libreri, the CTO of Epic, and they gave us an early look at the Unreal Engine 5, which is the next generation of their long-running Unreal Engine series. And this was the one that's specifically designed for next-gen games. It's not even going to come out. There's an early version coming out early 2021, and the first game for it will probably be Fortnite in the summer, but you won't see games running on this technology until late 2021 probably. But yeah, it comes with, so I don't know if you've all seen the demo, but the two big features for this is a technology called Lumen and a technology called Nanite. And so Lumen is their like ray tracing-esque technology where it's like dynamic lighting. So lighting in video games is fake. Like all the reflections and stuff you see in lighting now, it's all made up. It's all like baked in. All the lighting you see now in games is like smoke and mirrors, right? Like the light that shines in won't reflect naturally in a video game, so they fake the reflection to make it come out. But with lumens, it happens naturally, it happens dynamically, and so you can just shine a light and it appears. And Nanite is just a really fancy way of saying that they've got like movie quality, like Marvel movie quality CGI that you can just put into a video game.
So I dug into this a little bit. I actually went over on the game development subreddit, and one of the sort of top stories on there was obviously this reveal. And it seems like the really exciting thing here from a development standpoint is that it streamlines how you can drop assets into the game. Because a huge amount of like development sort of bandwidth goes towards having to make sure that you are optimizing your hardware and your what your game is doing with the resources you're putting into it. Because when they create a 3D asset, they typically make it like super duper gorgeously high res, and then if you just drag and drop that in the game, it might just make your PS4 explode or whatever. Yeah. But it seems like this goes a really long way to kind of just streamline that process and take out some of the sort of the boring kind of like a accountant type of stuff that you have to do with assets.
Yeah, so I asked comparatively how much time a technology like this could save a game developer, and first of all, they told me that it's like comparing apples to oranges because there are no games currently in development that look like this. But if they were trying to emulate like this kind of level of quality in a current gen game, whatever Unreal Engine 5 does would save 3 to 4 times the amount of work that they'd have to do normally to make a game look like this or act like this. So it's a huge time saver for game developers, especially with like their asset program where they could just like take like assets that look this good and they don't have to futz around with it, and they can just put it into a game, is what they told me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what that means in the time of crunch. Do you know what I mean? Like that. I mean, that sounds great. I'm not a game developer, but I would assume that would help alleviate crunch theoretically if the deadlines aren't being pushed in that same proportion.
Right.
Well, I feel like whenever you have extra time at work, usually they just add more work. Like at any job, like it's like it's like, oh, you're done early. Well, be free. Like so, from a gamer perspective, obviously, what's exciting about that prospect is more time to put into like these other facets. But what's also scary is like in terms of the work policies that you're bringing up, it's how can this maybe end up being like you get like extra time, but then you spread it over somewhere else. Like I think it's interesting to think about how technology can help or potentially harm work practices or kind of justify things.
Yeah, it seems like this is something it's less about. Obviously, this is a lot of gorgeous, cutting edge graphics to kind of get us excited about next gen. But it also seems like it's a chance to try to make it so that people who make games can spend more time making the games and less time making the games work, which is sort of, I think, the creative fun part that most people are more interested in. There's something huge that I feel like not enough people are really discussing, which is that Epic changed their licensing rules for how people who use Unreal Engine, which, by the way, you can just get it. It's free. It's free to learn how to make a game in Unreal. Previously, the way it worked was if you made a game in Unreal and you sold it on Epic Game Store or Steam or what have you, anytime it made more than $3,000 quarterly, you had to start paying them 5% of your profits. For using their software. Now you don't have to pay Epic a dime until your game sells more than $1 million in its lifetime, which is insane. That seems like they're really just trying to get people like to make stuff in Unreal, which is exciting, I guess.
Unreal?
Yeah, it's Unreal.
Some
it's
would
Epic.
say.
Yeah.
All those
As
adjectives.
the name would imply.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Janet.
No, go for it.
Well, I'm not trying to like be that person that's playing devil's advocate, but I just feel like there has to be a catch. Or is Epic like really that pro developer? Which I hope that that's the case. But like, I don't understand. $1 million is so much money. How many games actually make $1 million?
Fortnite
they have a
prints
machine
like
there
$1 million
that actually,
a minute.
Yeah, they have a machine there that prints money. It's called Fortnite. It's just this big, huge machine that says Fortnite on the side, and it's just they put the V-Bucks in, and real money comes out the side. It's crazy. But no, like this has been kind of a weird, interesting. I've seen this happening at Game Developers Conference where different engines have tried to have more incentives to get people to start using them. Like we've seen this with Unity, Crytek, Epic are all sort of competing to try to get the attention of indie games, because little games that might seem like not a big deal on Steam suddenly catch on and they blow the hell up, and they want to bank on getting the next one of those. So
yeah, I think that makes sense. Like it's kind of like spend money to make money type of a situation. I think too, like all logistics aside, it just looks really nice. Like seeing it was really exciting just to kind of get a taste of what things could potentially look like. Obviously, this is a tech demo. This isn't, and I liked the piece that went up. I think Matt you basically did all of our coverage on these, but like when you had that piece on it not being a real game but being playable, just to kind of like discuss the fact that this isn't a real game, but like this was made to be playable, so it's not completely a smoke and mirrors just for looks thing. It looked really pretty. Like I loved how natural the water looked. I'm really excited about the sound and the distancing and trying to create more immersive experiences through more than just pushing the graphics. And I liked how just natural everything was. The animation of moving through doorways, like I just played Final Fantasy VII Remake, and geez, you go through a lot of doorways and tight passageways, and just streamlining those kind of movements to keep you in the game and in the experience is really exciting to me. So yeah, it looked gorgeous. My gut reaction was like, wow, this looks like a movie. But then I remembered, and I think I told the story before, but I thought the same thing when I saw MGS2, which doesn't actually look like a movie. So I think, it's easy to get swept up in the moment. I was like, wow, it's beautiful. Then I look back and I'm like, oh, it wasn't nearly as realistic as I remember it being. But I love that we're pushing towards that and thinking of new ways to streamline that for developers. It's super exciting.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I talked to... I'm sorry.
No, go. Mine's like semi-off topic, so...
I talked to Epic about was like what your goals was, and you're like, oh, we want to make things more natural and dynamic and like actually gameplay, So in current gen games, when a door reacts to you touching it or like a rock crumbles or something, that's CGI. That's pre-made and made to happen like that. But with Unreal Engine 5, like the rocks are moving naturally because that's just how the physics work,
Tech.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love seeing this kind of stuff. Seeing interactive tech demos is totally like there's so many of them floating around on the internet that are like weird, like last gen stuff where it's a ball and you can drop it and sometimes it bounces and sometimes it melts or like whatever. And it's just sort of showing off how different, pieces of hardware or pieces of software work. I wonder if they'll release this to the public, like if they'll drop it on, make it available for free.
The demo?
Yeah, the demo. I think it'd be really. I mean, it'd be weird to put it on PC because it seems like it's using some cutting edge hardware. But the fact that they were transparent about this being running on PS5, it would be kind of neat if they were like, "Hey, check it out. It's free on PS5. Screw around with some lighting."
Yeah, unrelated. Well, here, does anybody want to comment on that? I have a question that's burning, but it's not anything related to
what Matt said. Go for it.
Okay, so, and I don't know if any of you are this like tech savvy that you could answer this, but I am not. I enjoy playing games and I enjoy it when it works. And obviously I know like Unreal Engine and Unity and all those others, but like, is there a distinctive difference when you're playing a game that's made on Unreal versus Unity, for example? Because I'm wondering if Xbox is creating this new engine for Halo and if that's going to become kind of like the Xbox engine and then Unreal Engine 5 kind of falls for everything else. And like if there's going to be a really big visual difference or even as a player, if it's going to play that differently, or is the tech so similar that like it really doesn't make that big of a difference?
So my understanding of this is that engines are all like, they're all simultaneously trying to make themselves as sort of useful for different things as possible while still being, user friendly. Unreal kind of has a head start there. I know that one thing that Unity I think tries to do is make it really portable, meaning not like you can, well, I guess kind of like you can take it with you, but more like if you make a game that's designed for PC, it's easy enough to just sort of, basically export it as a PS4 or an iPhone or a Switch game. And I think Unreal's trying to do that too. Like the fact that we got Fortnite on phones and on PS4 is, that's a focus of trying to get software on as many platforms as possible. But yeah, I know with proprietary stuff, like when big publishers like EA has Frostbite and what is it? There's the other one that sounds like it's snow related. It's like Snowdrop.
Snowdrop.
Yeah. The Ubisoft one. Typically, when AAA publishers have a dedicated engine that they use across their games, it's less about trying to achieve any kind of like, cohesive like style or vibe or anything. And it's more that they move people around between studios and they want to have everyone trained on the same software.
Yeah, and it saves money, right? Because like Ubisoft and EA using their own engines means they don't have to pay Epic Games to use Unreal. So it's kind of like like how there's different smartphones. They all do the same thing. They all call and let you use Twitter and browse the internet. But each of them have like different features or something that developers might find useful, especially independent ones.
Yeah.
Anyway, Matt, while you were talking to the Epic folks, you talked to Tim Sweeney a bit. Was this your interview about the PS5 hard drive?
Yeah. Everything that we published about Unreal Engine 5 today was from the interview that I did.
Okay, so Tim Sweeney had some very nice things to say about the new hard drive in the PlayStation 5. The quote here is, this is not just a whole lot of polygons in memory, it's also a lot of polygons being loaded every frame as you walk around through the environment, and this sort of detail you don't see in the world would absolutely not be possible at any scale without these breakthroughs that Sony's made. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been that excited about a hard drive.
Yeah, they were. You remember the Mark Cerny virtual talk from March, right? When they really went on about their SSD technology. This was Tim Sweeney basically saying, yeah, all that stuff is very cool. He's not wrong. SSDs are rad. And he basically showed this Unreal Engine 5 demo as proof of what the SSD is capable of, like what the technology lets you actually do conceptually.
I forgot until we showed this B-roll about that like mysterious, possibly fake, possibly not fake audience in front of Mark.
Yeah, I mean,
what a weird
I love that
was.
I love that like an Unreal Engine demo got us more excited about PlayStation 5 than a PlayStation 5 event did. Like, this is such a bizarre console generation like launch period, whatever you call it.
Well,
like,
and even the fact that like we haven't really heard anything from Sony regarding the PS5, like it's been like morsels of information, and the biggest chunk of, I guess you could say, digestible information that the audience has gotten is coming from Epic, not from Sony.
That's a weird problem to have. Oh, we got another one here. This is fun. He also said that Fortnite would launch on Xbox Series X and PS5 at launch, which is, I mean, that seems like kind of a no-brainer, but that it would be migrating to UE5 in 2021. So like we're going to have, I guess, more rocks in Fortnite that fall organically or something.
Yeah,
a lot of bats, hopefully.
Fortnite.
Well, I still need to learn how to build because I've been putting that off for some time.
Well, it's gonna get really difficult because the rocks and boards will all have totally realistic physics, and you have to be like an actual contractor to build anything.
You have to like draw up plans and get the permits approved by your city.
I think what makes it like so much more successful is just that like it was so much more contextualized. Like, you know, I kind of echo Sydney when it comes to like the technological stuff. Without doing my own research individually, I don't necessarily always know exactly what like these buzzwords mean because I just don't have that information offhand. It's not my like knowledge set, and I think that's true for a lot of gamers. You know, that's the whole one of the reasons people like consoles is that you can just kind of follow that wave, and they take care of that heavy lifting for you. You don't have to pick parts or really understand what's going into it. You just have to kind of buy into it, and then you know, you're there for the ride. Here, it kind of put everything into context. They're explaining stuff, but they're also showing you what it would mean in terms of gameplay. Like, okay, here's all of these polygons. All these, you know, they mentioned the joke on that people kept mentioning on Twitter was like, "Wow, so many triangles." And like we joke about that, but exactly. But the reality is, like, now that we see what that actually means, it feels a lot more powerful. It's something that we can get excited about because we're seeing gameplay moments that we've similarly experienced. You know, this kind of gave me like that Tomb Raider vibe, and it's like these are adventures that we've gone on, or at least similarly. So seeing it in that context makes it a lot more powerful than like a very, you know, developer facing like GDC talk that we've seen previously.
Yeah, I mean, I think the elephant in the room is that an SSD is not sexy, right? Like if you have one in your computer, it's just so you can boot your computer faster, but then you have, you know, the founder of Epic Games who's like, you know, the SSD in the PS5 is far ahead, better than anything you get on a high-end PC today. And this is what it means, is that it pushes out graphics and physics way better than anything on the PS4 or Xbox One right now.
Yeah, in that article, I mean, Matt, I'm sure you know because you're the one who wrote it. But in the article, the comparison to what the PS4's current hard drive situation, I found that really helpful. I think it was something like 50 to 100 megabytes per second, where for the PS5, it was something gigabytes. Like, it's not even comparable.
Yeah, 5 gigabytes. And also I spoke with Bo Moore, who's our tech lead, and I think he says that a high-end SSD today can probably do about 2 to 3 gigabytes per second. So yeah, whatever, if PS5, you know, can do 5 gigabytes like they're saying they can, then that is already higher than what an expensive SSD can get you today.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think the other thing is, again, like, I'm semi-technically inclined. Like, I've built a few PCs. I sort of understand what's happening. And for a lot of people, I think of like my dad, for example, he loves consoles, but maybe doesn't really understand the hype of like this SSD situation. But that difference theoretically is going to be so great that even to an untrained eye, I think that it's going to make a really big difference in seeing generationally how much better the PS5 is in comparison to the PS4.
That's a good point. Like I think this generation is going to be a lot of it's going to be a lot of quality of life improvements and a lot of, hopefully not a lot of these things where you have to walk through the little hallway because it's secretly a loading screen. But how do you market something based on how fast it loads something? I guess it would be like, the same way you'd sell like an acceleration on a car. You'd be like, oh yeah, you can load, everyone loves GTA Online. Well, what if you could load it like that? Like, here's a comparison. Like, we've seen graphics comparisons, but I think it's going to be weird if we're seeing load time comparisons. I think that's going to be something that's more commonplace this generation.
Yeah, I'm curious too if it's going to come down to like what that implies for gameplay. My assumption is that like because there's less load times, like does that mean that the levels are more vast? Does that mean that we see somehow more open world games? You can probably tell how much I love open world games based on how I just said that. But I feel like, I don't know, I think maybe you start marketing it in its application versus like, look at this black screen. It's not black faster than the other one. Because that's so hard to illustrate.
Yeah, that is also an easy sell though, to be like, hey, don't you like playing the game rather than staring at the load screen? Well, this is a way to do it more faster. You can spend less time. I mean, that's kind of how I wouldn't say that Stadia has marketed itself well, but the idea of like, you just open the game and you're there and it's not even like an issue. Like that's a nice selling point. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about an actual game that we understand. This is exciting. 2K has been teasing the return of Mafia with the release of Mafia Trilogy. And this is a weird one because I feel like teasing is usually when somebody teases something, they don't drop a bunch of screenshots and there's not usually a store listing. I would say this is just a really messy announcement at this point. But yeah, according to the Microsoft Store, Mafia Definitive Edition and Mafia 2 Definitive Edition will be released on August 28th and May 19th, respectively.
Interesting. So it lists them as two different entities. Because what I got out of it was that it was just going to be like Mafia Trilogy, similar to MCC, Master Chief Collection, where it's just like all of them in one game.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, these dates follow the vague tease of Mafia Trilogy by 2K. And so if Mafia 2's release date is true, it would be released on the same day as the full reveal of the Mafia Trilogy that is taking. So okay. So they basically tease that they're going to be announcing something very exciting on May 19th, but then they also accidentally revealed that there will be like things coming out that day. So they accidentally leaked that's going to be like an available now type of situation. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, pretty sure the Microsoft Store was not supposed to go live, and that was a big whoops on their part.
Okay, I have a question about this. I have lots of questions. You guys are going to love having me on here. So are we just living in an age where people keep screwing up, like putting up web pages? Or is there just more reporting on that? Because I feel like in the last like 2 years, there's been so many leaks or just like information gathering from websites putting up listings early. Like, is that just happening more, or people just looking for it more? Because like last week we got the Assassin's Creed DLC stuff, and that was from, I think, a German listing.
I mean, I think you get a lot of people really want, like, they want to know stuff, and you have online communities like subreddits and message boards and stuff where there are people who are like, like they're all sort of digging into the same info, and they're all sort of sharing the same tidbits that they find, and like one person will find like a little loose thread, and then more people will pull on it, and I mean, I there's also, I don't know, a lot of games come out. That's part of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a little both. I think there are people who are like more eagle-eyed these days about looking for these kind of things, but sometimes a website gets like wrongly timestamped, and that's what happens when the store goes up early like this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to point any fingers, but certain parts of IGN have done this numerous times. We've definitely had some exclusive reveals that have come this way. My favorite is Walmart Canada. It seems really like, for whatever's going on up there, like they just, it's not regular Walmart. It's always Walmart Canada. They'll be like, hey, here's what Bethesda has coming out this fall. Surprise, it's Doom Eternal. And it's like, okay, well, good job, everybody. This is interesting, though, because you don't... And I can understand, I feel like this... I've heard murmurs about Mafia stuff for a minute, but I think this is the first time we've had anything like a proper store listing. And some of that is because this is such a short turnaround. Like, to have one of those available now things, you do have to have a lot of stuff in place to kind of flip that switch. So it's harder to keep a secret in that sense. But 2K has been, it seems like, really kind of playing around with doing really short-term marketing windows, or like not... Like, they'll announce something. For instance, the BioShock, Borderlands, and XCOM collections that came out on, or that are coming out on Switch in a couple weeks. Those were all announced 2 months ago, which is like a very short time to go from like game announced to game release. That's not quite available now, but that's a quick 2 months.
Yeah, I wonder if they're seeing a lot of return on that. I mean, they must be if they keep doing it. But it's interesting to think about, like, that's such a shortened marketing window than, getting announced at E3 in like 2010 and the game finally comes out like 6 years later.
Yeah, I think people get like fatigued on being excited for something. And if you do something like, if you go, hey, guess what? Mafia is, this is available now. And you tease the next game that's coming out down the ride. People get like excited about the new thing. And they'll get so excited that they'll buy the thing that maybe they already have, but they're like, yeah, sure, why not? Mafia 2 Remastered, I'm in.
Yeah, it's a sick move, like you can get it now or check under your seat. It's right there, right? Like, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're living in the age of people like impulse buying stuff because we're stuck at home and bored. Like, it's kind of a good fit. Just a couple weeks ago, they dropped XCOM Chimera Squad, which was announced 10 days prior to release. So it seems like they're counting down. They're going from like a 2-month window, 10-day window, to an available now window. I feel like the next thing they're going to do is they're just going to accidentally release it, and then they'll announce it a week and a half after that. That'll be fun.
One thing though is like they've got other, like they also had to announce that they're not releasing a WWE 2K game this year, so that could also be a factor where they're like, hey, sorry, wrestling fans, we know you're really big into this annual release that we usually do, but there's not going to be one in 2020. So as an apology, here's Mafia, the trilogy, right?
I think there's a lot of overlap between those fan bases.
Yeah.
No, I was going to ask, do you guys have any, are you familiar with the Mafia series? I dabbled in 3, but didn't really mess with the other ones.
I also just dabbled in 3. I was really enjoying the story of it, but I found some of the gameplay elements to be very clunky. So it sounds like this is gonna, it's a definitive edition, so maybe it'll. I don't think they're gonna do enough to really change that element of it. It sounds like. I might still give it another try because I did enjoy the story element. I like throwing people in the water. That's awesome. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to like at least re-examine like the conversation around those games because they're so critically acclaimed. But I feel like they have some issues aging, and that maybe they don't age that well. But I don't know. We'll find out because now we'll get a chance to revisit them in an easier way.
My thing is, I didn't realize it was going to get a visual upgrade like this, And it was kind of the same with Tony Hawk. Looks good.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
I was surprised.
Yeah, and I mean, I think of Mafia as being a fairly new series, but the first one came out in 2002, and the second one came out in 2010, and then Mafia 3 was 2016. So that's like, those are, I mean, the first Mafia is almost as old as Tony Hawk Pro Skater, so why the hell not,
Yeah.
Anyway, Phil Spencer has talked a little bit about how the impact of COVID-19 will probably mean that we'll be feeling it on games in 2021. We've talked a lot about sort of games that are that close to being finished, getting released that much later because of weird delays and working from home and stuff. But he spoke to Business Insider and he said, mocap is just something that's basically stopped. We're not going into mocap studios. If you had all your animation captured and you're doing touch-up in more individual art production and in areas like textures and other things, you're in a better position. If you're waiting for a lot of either large audio work, when it's symphonies and other things, or mocap, you're held up right now, and you're making progress in areas that you are. So, yeah, it's weird, because video games have a lot of different moving parts, and some of them can be done remotely, but yeah, putting ping pong ball suits on Troy Baker is just one of those things you can't do from home.
Yeah, you got to be there to really experience it. But, I mean, it sucks to think about, we spent so much of this year talking about, obviously, what's impacting our day-to-day and our month-to-month. But, I think this is like a harsh reality check that even if things are better next year, we will still be feeling like kind of the reverb of what started this year. So there's no escape. Yay! But, yeah, it's rough.
I feel like this bodes pretty... Oh, go ahead, Matt.
No, it sucks that it's kind of like this delayed chain reaction, so the worst of it we're not going to feel until after, like, a year from now,
There's Phil Spencer in his living room.
He's our good friend.
I feel like we've got too many heads on screen right now. This is like one of those awkward Zoom calls. No, I'm worried if this was a normal year. I don't know what a normal year is. If this was middle of a console life cycle, I'd be less concerned about this. But the fact that there's going to be people getting the hang of using new hardware, which I feel like always has some kind of delays baked into it, coupled with the fact that there are weird pipeline delays in terms of mocap and just the entire workflow surrounding that, I feel like this next generation is going to have a very rocky start.
Well, so, okay, I'm trying to be positive. Let's try that. These games, let's say there's game delays in 2021, but both Xbox and Sony, Sony more so has straight up said, we're not going to produce as many units at launch. And I believe that Phil Spencer also said in an interview that, that might be one of the ways, there was a lot of qualifiers on it, but that is something that could happen. Max, you look so confused. Are you okay?
I don't know why I'm the only one on the screen right now. This is awkward.
I was feeling that confusion. I was like,
I'm on the camera
I'm chatting with you. But anyways, so if there's less next-gen consoles at launch, so less people naturally are going to be getting it, and there's less games that are coming out in 2021 that are only for those consoles, that kind of is okay, because I'd be really bummed if I couldn't get my hands on a PS5 at launch, and then these 3 games that I'm really excited about come out in March, and it just kind of lessens the burn, I guess, that those games are also delayed.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. I think just coupled between there are going to be game delays related to this. There are going to be game delays related to the normal issues of kind of getting people on board with new hardware. There's going to be hopefully not a whole lot of supply chain issues with the new hardware, but the entire world is sort of screwed up right now. And we're but will we get to play when do we get to play GTA 6? When would that come out? So I don't know. So I just checked in with the chat, and they're all arguing about the consoles. So that's that's great.
Which one's better, or just
that's what they just go in there. Some people, I feel like they get all amped up, and they're like, all right, I got some great new material. I'm gonna dunk on those X bots, and then somebody else is like, all right, PS5, let's do this, and they get in there and they just art fight. So,
anyway. I like both for what it's worth. I'm planning on getting.
Yeah, both. No, here's the thing. I like to play the games. I don't really care what box they come out of, as long as the games are cool. Both of these machines are terrifically boring without games. So
I want the box.
Isn't it weird to think that they're machines? They're robots.
They're
sometimes I forget. That makes me sound really stupid, but sometimes I just kind of forget that they're legit machines that are technology and they're doing things for us, and that's really nice. So we should be nice to them.
The PS4 fan just warring with all its might to play a 3 gigabyte size game. Yes, I'm throwing shade to me trying to run Dreams on my base PS4, and then it's hard to forget that one's a machine. But I do get what you mean a little bit.
I'm trying to think what isn't a machine these days.
My water bottle's not a machine yet.
That you should get one of those new ones that has a timer on it that beeps.
So wait, I actually
I want one of those because then it can
Those are the worst.
No, so I had a water bottle. So this is not NG+, but I had a water bottle and it self-cleaned itself every hour. And I brought it on set and somebody took it while I was recording something and I lost this bottle. My brother got it for me for Christmas. It had my name on it and everything. So that was
how did it self-clean it? Did it have like a little Zamboni inside there that would spin around and
like a UV light, right?
It was a UV light, yeah. It was super cool.
Were you satisfied with like the quality of that bottle?
I was very satisfied. Wow. The only thing I didn't like was that I like the ones with the tops that like are like sippy cups.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, if it's the other ones, I spill on myself too much, and that one was a spill hazard. But it was still really great. I would always bring it on like work trips, so then I didn't have to buy water bottles, and I could just use the sink water. But I digress.
That is like I like all the consoles the same, and I'm looking for the best water bottle. So I relate to this conversation.
Start arguing about water bottles. Something that
link me that water bottle because I'm in the market for a new one, and I love the sippy cup as well.
I bought a power saw yesterday, and there were so many different kinds of saws, and I had to do all this comparison shopping. Do you know how easy it is to pick a console? There's like three. There's a lot, but I mean there's like 3 basic ones. And then there's like variations on 2 of, I guess there's variations on, so there's like maybe 6 of them. And now there's going to be 2 more of those on top of that. But it's not like there's 8 different companies making them. It's kind of straightforward. You're like, that one that one has Master Chief, that one has the bearded guy, whatever. Anyway.
We buried the lead here. Someone at IGN's LA office is a thief, and we have to find out who.
Exactly.
Wait, was it in the LA office or was it on location?
No. It was on like I was a guest host. It was on. I'm not gonna throw the people under the bus. Wow. I was like working a freelance job, and they were doing set cleanup, and I had walked away from my bag because I was like saying bye to our guest, and then I came back and it was gone. Like
it could have been the guest who stole it.
Maybe I did a horrible job, and this was their way of getting back at me.
Anyway, so speaking of delays, everything's getting delayed. One thing that's been getting delayed since before it was cool is the new Mutants, which at this point they're not so new. They're that movie was they started making that like 3 or 4 years ago. It has yet another release date. It is now scheduled for August 28th, 2020, and I really doubt that will happen.
No.
The original release date for this
delayed.
Because of right now it's because of COVID and theaters not being open. Because people are clamoring to flock into their local cineplexes to find out what those new mutants are up to.
But up until this delay, I know that it keeps getting delayed. But why? What are the reasonings that they've given?
Okay, so I've honestly lost track at this point. April 13th, 2018 was the original release date. And I think then what happened was Battle Angel Alita, which had also been delayed a bunch, got pushed from holiday to February, and that pushed Dark Phoenix to summer, and that pushed New Mutants down the road. And then they did some weird switcheroo thing. And they were like, no, that'll be out February 22nd, 2019. And then they were like, just kidding, we have there was the Fox buyout happened. Disney bought Fox. Mm-hmm. And they were like, we'll figure it out. And then they've just kind of had it in their back pocket for a while. And I honestly don't know how this movie has been like. So I looked it up. Maisie Williams is 23 years old. I think she was like 19 when they shot this.
Well, and I'm looking and I feel like half of the cast looks like they've kind of had their like moment where they've become really famous now. And I'm curious if when they shot this, if it was all just a bunch of randos besides Maisie Williams. Because it has that guy from Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
And Anna Joy. She has like 4 names.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yes.
She's great.
She is really great.
No, but It's got all your favorite It's got like all the characters from the hottest new movies of 2017, such as Stranger Things and Game of Thrones, and yeah, I don't know. This is I also like I like the New Mutants. Like they're like a weird X-Men spinoff from the 80s that was like kind of neat in the early days, and this was like Marvel, like X-Men trying to be like, let's make a horror movie in this space. And now it's just like it's been so long, and I think at this point, like everyone who's paying attention to this stuff knows that like mutants have been like they've been backburnered. They're going to show up in the MCU at some point, but this doesn't even exist in any type of timeline that will have any lasting repercussions.
Max, you're an X-Men guy. What's the elevator pitch for the New Mutants? Like it's not a horror comic book, right? In the comics?
No, early stuff is very weird though. Like early stuff, they fought a demon bear. Like one of them was like a shaman, and they had to go back to like a Native American reservation, and there was like a actual demon that was on the loose, and they had to fight it. But the pitch is basically the regular X-Men were effectively just adults who lived at this weird school and fought crime or whatever, or fought for mutant rights. But the New Mutants were like, let's have like this is like if there's like an X-Men Junior, that's kind of it. And there was a whole thing where Kitty Pryde, who was the youngest member of the X-Men, got sent to go be in the New Mutants, and she's like, I want to be in the X-Men. And the rest of the X-Men who are like in their 30s are like, no, you're 13. We probably shouldn't be hanging out with you. This is a little weird. And then they just were kind of like a new group of kids. One of them's a werewolf.
Cool.
Yeah, Maisie Williams is the werewolf.
Huh, I could see it. That's good casting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited for this movie.
I feel like I was joking that I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it on an airplane someday, and I'm like, I don't even know if that'll happen. I think they will stop having airplane movies by the time this movie's out.
If that's what it took, I would as well.
What's like the over-under on them just putting it out on Hulu?
I don't know. And it's interesting too. After like that whole like thing that went down with like what AMC had stopped, so they're not going to run. Which studio was it again?
Universal.
Universal Pictures.
Universal. So I do feel like that wave of like, let's just release all the stuff is maybe not going to be as much of a wave anymore. Potentially, I don't know how other studios feel about that information.
Yeah, I think Disney's pretty pissed off about, or not pissed off. They're wary of pissing off theater chains. Not that like anyone can really fight with Disney because they have like all the biggest properties, but I think they don't want to just give away stuff for free on Disney Plus. Like, I mean, they're definitely putting stuff on there, but I think that they could always keep New Mutants in their back pocket for like a Thursday when not enough people are signing up for Disney Plus. They're like, hey, great, it's out. The New Mutants are finally here, everybody. Great news. Bergtown Music Group on YouTube said, watch New Mutants be the redemption for all the trashy past few X-Men movies. That would be such a weird punchline if it was actually really good.
Maybe that's why they're saving it. Is because they're like, it needs to be the perfect situation because we don't want to let this masterpiece go to waste. Or maybe they're waiting for Oscar season.
That must be it. It's going to be the first art house X-Men movie, yeah.
Best picture winner, New Mutants.
I would love if it was that.
Someone in the chat named Alita said, Alita, Battle Angel 2, please. I think that's an Alita Battle Angel fan right there, if I could guess by the username.
I hope
DJ Solid
Battle Angel 2.
I totally want that. They completely set that up for a sequel, and then
good movie.
We're just like, yeah. Also they made all the graphics, they made all the tech. It's like ready to go. That's like a damn video game. They have, they got all the JPEGs or whatever they use to make that. DJ Solid says, can someone tell Destin to relax with the transitions? We are getting dizzy. He definitely is having fun over there. I don't know what he's doing. What do you guys want to talk about? Was it anything exciting happen to you today? Because like Jeremy put a thing in here about the Sandman getting an audiobook. I haven't read the Sandman. Have you guys read the Sandman?
No.
Oh my gosh. So, wait, Janet, you're ahead of me then. Because I was going to say, if no one has read it, then I am the closest to reading it because I own it. but I have not read it.
Oh no, yeah, I read the first bit of it. It's a little long. I know it makes me sound kind of dumb,
It's
but
really good.
It's a lot. It's dark.
So,
it's super dark.
I've heard it's dark and it's really good. So my old neighbor, who's one of our good friends now, he's a comic collector, and he was kind of being like my comic person, and so he'd kind of just appear at my doorstep with a bunch of comics and be like, read these, and then I'd exchange them and he'd bring others. And the Sandman was one of them, but it's been over a year and somehow I have not read it. But I've heard it's really,
Sydney,
really good.
That's a really good system. You just have someone who just gives you comics that you can just rent out like that?
It's like a comic library, yeah. Right now I have Watchmen from him and Batman one and an X-Men one.
Which Batman and which X-Men? Let me see. Are they down there, or were you just looking at something in your desk?
No, they're down here. Let's see what I have.
That's probably why you're not reading them. That's no place for comic books. You got to get yourself a good comic book chair. You can sit on the chair and read comics.
I used to have a bookshelf, but the bookshelf broke.
Ooh, is that God Loves Man Killed?
Yes. So I have
the one
this one.
That one's good. It's not amazing. The X-Men don't have a lot of great graphic novels, but that one's pretty good.
So, because I told him I really like X-Men. And then I also have this one, which I've already read and is very, very good, which is the Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, that's one of the best comics ever made.
And then I have Fables. That's the other one.
Fables is pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm like 3/4 of the way.
So Sandman is like, it was always the comic book for like goth babysitters who smoke clove cigarettes in my experience. Like it's a little bit ahead of my time, which makes sense why Jeremy would be so into it, because he was probably a goth who smoked clove cigarettes at some point. But it was one of those things where like this was in the same way that like, you know, there's like those games that people who don't play games are like, oh yeah, no, it's actually really good. Like I was really I feel like it's very much kind of like a Last of Us of comics, where it's oh no, it totally transcends the medium, and it's like there's a lot of other good stuff too that isn't as quite as dark, maybe.
That matches how my friend Andy talks about it.
Yeah, it's very like, I mean, what is it? There's like Death is like a goth lady in it who wears an Ankh necklace, I think.
That's cool.
Oh, we have some breaking news here. This is fun. Apparently, Nvidia is teasing the world's largest graphics card. What?
I know they don't mean physically, but I would love a world where the graphics card is the size of a PC tower.
No, he said, okay, ladies and gentlemen, what we got here is the world's largest graphic card while lifting the GPU with oven pot holders. I don't understand. I don't understand what's happening. I also like, I feel like we're at this point where everybody is like, we're going to have an E3 press conference. And like,
oh, yo, that's the size of like a pan.
Huge. Yeah.
Here, wait, I want to click on the
link.
link.
Literally like putting it in and taking it out of the oven, like in this video. It's so amazing.
I love that. I love this man.
I think this is a goof. I don't know if we have a graphic up here. So they're just goofing around over there.
Wait, and the YouTube video is called "What's Jensen Been Cooking?" and he pulls it out of an oven. Oh my gosh, so I love everything about this.
This is what I feel like everything has just gone completely insane. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang has cooked up something special. He opens his oven and he pulls out a graphics card like on a giant tray. This is hilarious. I changed my mind. I want to see the graphics card.
It's big.
Cool. I hope that it is powerful enough to games.
Yes!
Okay, here it is.
Yes, I love this. I want to believe that they had some like really elaborate like way that they wanted to show this off, and then because of all of the stay-at-home orders, he was like, "I'll just cook it in my oven. It'll be great."
Oh,
that's got to be a blown-up version of it.
Oh, it's heavy. You could see him struggling.
No, I think that's the real one, Max.
No.
Can you imagine that? You're gonna have really nice graphics.
Oh,
their graphics are too big. I can't have it. That's okay. Well, that's wild.
So that's with the next gen console.
That whole video was like a vibe right there. That's like me when I take the pizza rolls out the oven. Like same mood.
Oh,
I think that's a good idea. I think my favorite part of quarantine is just seeing inside so many people's homes, like just seeing what's going on there. Did you talk to Tim Sweeney yourself on Skype? Or
yeah?
Did he have on Zoom. Did he have like one of those like sharper image, like electric ball things in the background?
Yep.
Did you ask him about that?
No, man, I'm a professional, but I did have questions about it. Only, it was a perfectly fine, normal office in, I imagine, South Carolina, because that's where Epic Games is based. But it did strike me as a design choice to just have one of those electro ball things.
Very
on the
Animal
ground.
Crossing, because I have like the same thing in my Animal Crossing house where I'm like, where do I put this plasma ball I bought? And then I just like put it into the corner.
Those are the ones that you put your fingers on, right? And then it like goes to your fingers.
Yeah, and then the little lightning, yeah. But like, he's the billionaire and not me, so maybe he understands home design better than I do, I think.
Those are a good value if you want one of those, because that's the only thing that does that, is one of those things, one of those plasma balls. Exactly. There's no like console war for plasma balls. There's just one kind. There's one kind of them.
One plasma ball, yeah, and Sharper Image sells them for $60 probably. Yeah, I don't know.
Here's another story. I think
there's a real story. Go ahead.
There's a real story. It's not even an interesting story. I feel like the two things I find the most not interesting to talk about is when a thing is not happening or happening later, or when the thing is happening normally according to schedule. Here, you want to hear more about the PS5? Great news, because according to a Sony global earnings call or financial results briefing or whatever the hell, they said that brace yourselves, that new hardware is on track for launch this holiday season, and that although factors such as employees working from home and restrictions on international travel have presented some challenges in regard to this part of the testing process and the qualification of production lines, development is progressing. So frickin' reveal the damn thing already.
Sure. I feel like, though, at this point, we are constantly getting updates on it's not working out, no, it's working out, it's fine. Both very panickedly stated. So I'm like, honestly, I don't really believe anything that anyone says about the future anymore, because no one knows anything. But sure, like, it's just kind of at that point where every 2 seconds it's like, actually, nothing's going to happen. Actually, everything's going to happen. We're doing okay. So that sounds good. We'll see.
This feels like very much like a Principal Skinner steamed hams situation, where they're like, yeah, no, everything's great in here. The PS5, it's the PlayStation 5, it's great. It's like, is that
right here in my kitchen?
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm reading it too. Did you guys ever watch that Netflix show? Sorry to No, that's a movie.
Yeah,
I think you should leave. I don't know the name of the show. It's like all those sketch comedies.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm reading it in the guy's voice when he's in the hot dog suit, where he's like, Sony says hardware's on track and no major issues with software. And you're just like, wait, but everything's burning behind you. Like, I mean, I want to believe them, and I think that they're right. They're going to release some PS5 this holiday season. But I think that when earlier they were, I referenced how they did say we're going to make less, like there will not be as many in the market. Makes me think, okay, then theoretically you could release like 5 into the wild and you would have fulfilled your promise. Like, how many we're talking?
I'm on the weekly IGN PlayStation show, and we were just regularly like, what are we talking about this week? And thankfully there's like third-party stuff and multi-platform stuff, but occasionally we have weeks where we're just like, we got nothing to talk about. Like, everything's bad.
Well, I feel like that kind of works out. Like at one point there's always like one of them that's like, so this week, right, and it's just kind of this gap of nothingness. I mean, like, maybe that was like the Wii U era, right, where it's just like, all right, it happens.
I have like I have the worst fear that we're hurtling into.
Oh, god damn it.
Okay,
we'll get this right. Is this okay?
You say it. All right, three, all right, 2, you go.
Okay, I had a work nightmare about the PlayStation 5 a couple months ago, where I dreamt that they announced the whole thing, like price, release date, everything about it, while I was asleep, and like at like 3 a.m. And I woke up and everything was on fire. I've got like millions of messages and emails and Slack notifications that are like, Matt, where were you? Why didn't you cover this? And I'm like, I was asleep. It was 3 a.m. I don't know, but
I had a work. I don't know. It was like a work nightmare about like a video shoot going wrong, but the silver lining was that in the dream, I found out that they were going to reboot Ape Escape, And
oh, yeah, I remember
like I found out like off the record.
Like I don't know it already.
Yeah. No, like I really hope it comes true. I hope there's a new Ape Escape. I'd be so happy because I predict it with my brain, but I don't think that's going to happen. Nobody wants those ape games as much as I do.
That reminds me of Planet Zoo from Gamescom. So at Gamescom, we had a Gamescom booth that was right next door to Planet Zoo, and I was so excited for Planet Zoo, and then I forgot when it was supposed to come out, and I haven't played it yet.
I might get on that Planet Zoo, make those ostriches and flamingos procreate or whatever you're supposed to do in that program. Okay, so one last thing. PlayStation has announced, I just was like crapping on PlayStation for not having enough stuff to announce. We just found out that there is a Last of Us Part 2 video series, which is like a behind-the-scenes thing, which in the first episode is available now, which is going to be, first one's titled Inside the Story. I don't know how you get inside the story, but they're, oh God.
That's a lot of blood.
Good God.
Hell of a thing. Why would
That's an intense,
that's all we even get to see, just that.
But yeah, it's a spoiler-free...
So is it a BTS one, or is it diving into the story similar, like, into Ellie and Joel, like, what they've been doing? Or is it, like, how it's made?
So far, it's been diving into, like, this initial episode that's kind of we're seeing a little bit now. It's them talking about where they're going narratively and kind of setting up the world. So the videos are pretty short, at least so far. Like, the first one, I think, is, like, 4 or 5 minutes. And it's basically them talking about, here's the situation with Ellie, what her mental state's at. She lives in this kind of, I won't get too detailed in case people want to go in fresh, which I know sounds funny because The Last of Us got spoiled so crazy already. But it just kind of describes the setting and what the characters' mindsets. They also address things like wanting to raise the stakes, but also continue the general narrative flow of what people know from the first game. So thinking about like, we have to, they seem very cognizant, especially in this initial video, about we want to do this, but also do it better, but also make it additive. So it's a little bit of like their headspace when creating it, a little bit about like how they constructed the world. So I'm not sure how the other videos will go, if they'll go into like how the game is made or things like that. But so far it seems very like story-based. I expect we hear some more gameplay details as well, potentially in the next coming episodes.
I feel like we're probably going to get a full-length version of this after the game comes out. They did that with the first game. Sony's been pretty good about that, which is one of my biggest complaints about video games is that so often everything is kept under wraps with the exception of like marketing-funded developer diaries that are kind of like, kind of softball. But seeing like really hardcore behind the scenes, like, hey, here's how it got made. Like that God of War doc was awesome.
Yeah, that was a good documentary actually. I really like the development stuff, like no clip stuff, which isn't like first party. That's made by our good friend, the Irishman, whose name I forgot right now.
Dwyer.
But Daniel Dwyer, thank you. More documentaries about how games are made, please.
Yeah, I agree. I really like no clip.
Oh, also one nice thing about if you are interested in watching these, like on, I think I watched the video off Sony or PlayStation's official YouTube, and they've disabled comments, which is kind of nice if you are avoiding like legitimate spoilers and you still want
easy to find.
Right, but like if you do want to watch it but feel like you can't, it seems like they're going to be doing that moving forward, probably to avoid spoilers. I'm guessing.
I spoiled myself like an immunization. Nothing could hurt me.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
That's good.
I did that too, and I don't know. I've been just sort of like, I feel like bittersweet on this game anyway, just because if everything was wonderful, I'd be like, yeah, tear me open. I want to get dark. Let's get gnarly. But everything is so bleak right now that I'm like, what about Ape Escape? I want monkeys on the loose. That sounds nice. Anyway, we are winding things down here. After this, there's something interesting happening. I mentioned this at the top of the show, but we have Powerbang, who is doing a live stream of PUBG Mobile, and he's going to be poking around in the updated Miramar map, which has an oasis and urban ruins and all sorts of new bells and whistles. Not literal bells and whistles, but the type of bells and whistles metaphorically that you put on firearms, such as the canted sight, which apparently you can put on all sorts of assault rifles and submachine guns and sniper rifles. And I have a lot of notes here. I like that they went kind of bonkers here. And there's also there is the cheer area, which is like a social hangout kind of thing, which I think is nice. I like the idea of a virtual space where you can engage with a bunch of people and maybe don't automatically get shot in the head by a dude on an ATV. You know, that's always a little bit more relaxing than getting shot in the face. Anyway, you can still get shot in the head there. That's coming up in just a second. Folks, thanks for hanging out. This was great, and thanks to everybody in the chat who was arguing about which of the electronic boxes was their favorite. We will be back same time tomorrow with more news, games, and more on all of IGN's various tendril platforms. So thanks for watching, and have a wonderful evening.